To travel across borders, you need a physical anchor to reality, a booklet of paper stamped in ink that proves exactly who you are. In 1954, a routine commercial flight touched down here at Tokyo's Haneda Airport. Passengers disembarked, filed into the terminal, and queued up for customs. Among them was a sharply dressed, ordinary-looking European businessman. When his turn came, he stepped up to the counter and handed over his documentation. Looking at vintage passport pages like these, you expect to see a very specific, regulated layout. The man's passport had all of it: official entry stamps, legitimate dates, and complex visa markings from previous verified trips. Everything appeared completely authentic, perfectly routine, until the officers checked his country of origin. The nation officially printed on his passport was Taurid, a country that does not exist on Earth. The officers were holding undeniable physical proof of a man's citizenship in one hand and facing a strict geographical impossibility in the other. The authorities pulled him out of the standard customs line and escorted him to a secure interrogation room to sort out what they assumed was a bizarre clerical error. Investigators laid out a map like this one, showing the established borders of Europe. They pointed to the continent and asked him to locate his homeland. He scanned the paper, and his expression shifted from calm to genuine confusion. He pointed right between France and Spain, visibly frustrated that the map labeled his home as the Principality of Andorra. He pushed back immediately. He insisted that Taurid had existed in that exact mountainous stretch for over 1,000 years, and he had never heard of Andorra in his life. To prove he was telling the truth, he emptied his pockets. He produced bank statements, a driver's license, and corporate IDs, and a thick stack of complex European banknotes from a financial system nobody recognized. A counterfeiter fakes a passport. They don't invent an entire shadow economy, fake 1,000 years of history, and demand a map be redrawn to match it. Unsure of what to do, the authorities decided to contain him. They booked a room in a nearby high-rise hotel and locked him inside for the night while they ran background checks. They took zero chances. Armed guards were stationed directly outside the only door to the room in the hallway, and the high-rise windows were sealed shut from the inside. The next morning, the investigators returned. The guards unlocked the door, stepped inside, and found the room completely empty. The guards outside hadn't heard a single sound. The bed was undisturbed. The door locks hadn't been tampered with. The windows were fully intact, and there was no secondary exit. The man hadn't slipped past security. A solid human body vanished from a sealed box, bypassing the strict laws of physics entirely. But a vanishing body was only the beginning of the anomaly. Back at the airport, officials went to check the lockup where they had stored his confiscated belongings. His passport, the corporate IDs, and the unknown currency were gone. Then the official police case file created by the Japanese investigators started to degrade. Officers found pages mysteriously missing from the main dossier. Specific details they had manually recorded during the interrogation were completely wiped clean. The total disappearance of the man, his effects, and his testimony left the Japanese authorities with a void where a person once stood. The case had essentially erased itself. For decades, skeptics have offered a grounded explanation. The entire Haneda incident was just an incredibly elaborate, logic-defying hoax pulled off by a master con artist. But there is another theory, one accounting for the impossible documents, the locked room escape, and the disappearing evidence. The man was a temporary visitor from a parallel timeline. Think of reality not as a single line, but as multiple flowing streams. Occasionally, those timelines briefly touch, exchanging matter in a localized area before snapping back into their separate, isolated paths. The case leaves us with the terrifying prospect that the man was telling the absolute truth, that he lived an entire life in a version of Europe that exists just out of our reach. It suggests the borders keeping our reality contained are incredibly thin, and under the right conditions, a completely ordinary person can simply walk right through.